CBS 46 News presents Public Affairs on Peach.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Public Affairs on Peach. I'm CBS 46 political reporter Giovanna Deerfick, and this morning we're going to try to do the impossible. That's right, we're going to reflect on this past year in politics and look ahead toward 2018, all in a half hour. We think we can do it. And we're going to begin this discussion with Republican strategist Julianne Thompson and Democratic strategist Fred Hicks. Thanks so much for joining us both.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, Fred, let's start with you. The Alabama Senate race, the special election, a lot of Democrats are celebrating Doug Jones's win, but a lot of questions came up about Roy Moore's character. Should Democrats really be celebrating, or was it a case that we had a flawed candidate here with a Republican?
Absolutely. You know, I think there are reasons to celebrate and reasons to be cautious. A win is a win at the end of the day, and that's exciting. I think you also saw that when they provided allocated resources, they were able to turn out, Democrats were able to turn out, increase turnout with key demographics such as African American women. By the same token, even with an extremely flawed candidate, the margin was right around 21,000 votes. So there's a lot to be nervous about, but there are certainly things to celebrate.
Julianne, what do you say?
Well, I agree with what he said. I think that you have to be cautious with the celebration, but like you said, a win is a win, and Doug Jones did win this. At the same time, I think that a lot of it had to do with the fact that many voters did feel over time like Roy Moore was a flawed candidate, and there were a lot of Republicans that did not show up to vote. So I feel like that this is still a very viable race for us in 2020 to retake this Senate seat. All of that being said, I would exercise extreme caution to both Republicans and Democrats as using this sexual misconduct issue as any sort of political sparring issue, because it's not a partisan issue, it's extremely systemic.
Okay, great. Now we know that, Julianne, that President Trump, he's been accused of sexual harassment. Do you think this is going to come back to haunt him now that so much focus has been on sexual misconduct allegations?
I think Pandora's box has been opened, and I think on either side of the aisle, I think you're going to see these sexual allegations continue to come up. I think that it will, of course, haunt members of the Senate, it will haunt members of Congress and the President, but it's nothing new, and it's nothing to be shocked at. From 1924 to 1972, during the entire time that J. Edgar Hoover was in charge of the FBI, there was never a public hearing on an FBI budget, and people say that was due to the fact that he held so many sex secrets over members of Congress. So these whole allegations and sexual misconduct among people in power positions is not a new issue.
Fred, what do you think about it?
Well, it's not a new issue, but it could fundamentally change the electorate. If women feel more energized and more empowered to take control of the political future, as we saw here in Atlanta this year, and I think even in Alabama, then that certainly could change the dynamics of what people like me, a political demographer, how we look at it and the models that we build to predict turnout and resource allocation. So it could actually have a profound impact on the midterms and the issues that we talk about next year, and certainly once we get past the midterms looking towards 2020.
Are people voting on that?
They can. They certainly can. I mean, I think that while they're not necessarily voting on that particular issue, it is motivating them to vote and have their voices heard overall.
Okay. Julianne, President Trump, a lot has happened. What do you think are his greatest accomplishments this past year?
I think by far his greatest accomplishment is Neil Gorsuch to the U.S. Supreme Court. I think that his foreign trips have been huge successes. And you know, if I had to choose one specific thing, though, I would say it was Neil Gorsuch.
Some people may say that the relationship with foreign powers may have put us in a more precarious situation in the world. You say what?
Well, I think it depends on who you ask. I think that if you're speaking about the Israel issue, it depends on which side of the issue that you're on. If you are a Republican, and honestly, this is really a nonpartisan issue, but it's part of the Republican platform, unwavering support of Israel. So I believe that that is definitely going to help him with Republicans.
Okay. Fred, what are you disappointed most about with the Trump administration in his first year?
Yeah, I think it's a change in our status globally. Since World War II, America has been on an incline in terms of thought of as a world leader, both culturally and economically, and and morally. And I think that the world is starting to change the way they view us in just now less than a year of him being in office. So it's very, very disappointing. It has consequences, whether you're looking at how North Korea is handling us or whether you look at how China is handling us. That change in view of how people view America has serious implications.
What has he done right?
Doug Jones. Doug Jones. He helped get Doug Jones elected in Alabama.
Okay.
Inadvertently.
The president has gotten a lot of attention about those tweets. Julianne, do you think those tweets have cemented his popularity, that that's what people want? They want somebody who's direct, authentic, and honest? Or do you think that he perhaps needs to tone it down a bit?
Well, if you ask me personally, I would say I think he needs to tone it down a bit. I'm not a big fan of the President of the United States using Twitter himself. I wish that he would allow a staffer to be in charge of his Twitter account. However, there's a big segment of the American population, not just part of the Republican base, but a large segment of the American population that enjoys that. I was actually at the inaugural ball when he asked everyone, he said, "The media wants me to put my Twitter account down. What do you guys say?" And everybody was like shouting, "Twitter, Twitter, Twitter." So I think that it appeals to a large portion of the population, just not me personally.
Very quickly, Fred, what would you tell him?
Put down the phone. Put down the phone.
Put down the phone. Okay. Sounds good. Well, we have much more to get to. We barely scratched the surface of the year in politics. We'll continue our discussion when Public Affairs on Peach returns. Stick around.